Hello, everyone. Welcome into the Cards HQ podcast. I am Jeff Greer, U of L basketball writer for the Courier-Journal, and this is our weekly U of L specific podcast. Although I'm going to warn you now, this week's podcast veers off into other areas, and you know what? I'm willing to accept that. I'm happy with that. We've got Jeff Borzello from ESPN joining us. He of CBS sports blogging fame, and then making the move over to ESPN and focusing more on recruiting at ESPN. He does a great job for them. And one of my favorite Twitter followers, or follows, I should say, and followers, I guess, but one of my favorite Twitter follows, and I'll tell you why. It's because Jeff and I share a passion for soccer, the world's game. We talk about it every time I see him. I would say almost exclusively end up talking about soccer. I need to get this guy to Louisville to be on my rec league soccer team. My knee is starting to be a little bit of an issue, and I think I need to find a couple viable replacements, and I can maybe be the coach on the sideline. Jeff would be high on my list. We'll fly him in every week for the games. But in all seriousness, he's going to join us. We talk all sorts of different stuff. Obviously, recruiting is at the top of that list. Get into Romeo Langford, Naz Reid, Darius Baisley, and a couple of Louisville commits already in the 2018 class in Courtney Ramey and Anthony Simons. And I keep asking different people about this on the podcast, and I don't mind asking because I think it's fascinating. I got Jeff's thoughts on if the Brian Bowen thing, and it's capital B, capital B, capital T trademark sign on the end of that, with the waiting to commit. I mean, just like to the very last second, it seems like. Not quite to the Maverick Rowan level of reclassification, but getting to that point of just committing to a school. I asked if Jeff thinks that is going to be a trend going forward, and like I think, he said, yeah, and it kind of makes sense. I mean, if you think about it. But we get into that. There's all sorts of good stuff in there. The conversation. If you are one of those people, and I am not ever going to evangelize about soccer. You either like it or you don't. It's okay if you're interested. It's okay if you're not interested. I will never be one of those people who argues over whether or not soccer is fun to watch. It's for some people. Some people don't like it. That's fine. I feel the same way about hockey. I like it, but I also understand that some people don't. I feel the same way about baseball. I sometimes like it, sometimes don't. I understand. So I'm not going to sit here and try to convert you. But I will warn you, it's fun. It's a fun conversation. You don't need to be a soccer fan to really understand what we're talking about. We're mostly just making fun of our own soccer taste. Anyway, so really excited to have Jeff on. He was at the beach today, so it was very nice of him to take a little break there at the end of his afternoon and hop on with us and chat. Before we get into that, I issue this kind of widespread plea every single time we record the podcast. This one, unfortunately for you, is no different. Here's how you can subscribe to this podcast. There are so many different ways to do it. There's so many different avenues to listen to this podcast, and I'm going to give you all of them. So start taking notes, or just pull out your iTunes app or your app store or whatever. Not your app store, your iTunes store, and go search the Cards HQ, all one word, Cards HQ podcast. When that thing pops up, just hit subscribe, and this podcast, every time we produce one, will be sent directly to your phone or your tablet. If you can also do that search, and it'll probably bring up the app, I believe, in the iTunes store, and you can download the app. If you download the Cards HQ app, you will have immediate access to this podcast. There is a tab just specifically for the podcast. videos, analysis, news, all sorts of different stuff that we put up covering U of L. I say this every week. There are a lot of people out there, UK and U of L fans, who complain about reading the CJ and having to see the other team. It's more U of L fans because they're the local team, and I I'm not going to argue with people who want to make that argument. That's their stance, and I happen to disagree. I think we cover the entire state and southern Indiana. But anyway, if you're one of those people who has no interest whatsoever in seeing any headlines about Indiana or Kentucky, that's okay, because we have the Cards HQ app. All you have to do is sign up for that, download it, and it'll be on your phone, and you will never have to see any other headlines. You will only see Louisville sports-specific headlines. Can't make it any easier for you than that. And you can read all sorts of football stuff. We're getting closer and closer to the season. You can read some more stuff about the baseball team as their season is now finished up, but they're looking forward to the offseason and what's next. Obviously, recruiting stuff will be hot and heavy here coming up. And then next thing you know, it's football and basketball seasons right around the corner. So you can find all of that in the Cards HQ app. You can also like our page, Cards HQ, on Facebook. And if nothing else, just go to courierjournal.com and click on some stuff. Try to maybe search my name or Steve Jones' name. Give us some extra love. We don't necessarily get paid by click, but give us some love. Anyway, so here's my conversation with Jeff Borzello. I took a break from pursuing some other stories that I'm working on this week. Keep an eye out for stuff on Twitter. You can follow me at Jeff Greer _CJ, and you can follow our football writer Steve Jones at Steve Jones _CJ. It's not hard to find my buddy Jeff Borzello on Twitter. It's actually quite easy. And that's because his handle is at Jeff Borzello. It's a very easy, Borzello. Real simple. So give this podcast a listen. Let me know what you think. And thanks so much for spending a little time with us. All right, so we welcome in our newest guest. Welcome to the pod, Jeff Borzello from ESPN. Jeff, it's been a long time for me hoping to get you on here. So welcome to our to the Cards HQ podcast.
Yeah, I'm hard to get at, very high maintenance. So, but I'm glad to finally be on.
I feel bad. I think I peeled you off the beach. Am I correct?
Yeah, it's all right. It was getting a little cloudy. I try to get there like 3-4 times a week. So I'll accept having to leave like an hour early today.
Okay, thank you. I'm incredibly jealous of you. Being at the beach 3 or 4 times a day. That was like my high school routine when I lived in Rhode Island, was every single day for the entire summer, would skip school toward the end of the school year for it. And now I'm sitting in a blistering hot Louisville, Kentucky, where the closest body of water is a fast-moving brown river that is one of the most polluted rivers in the country.
You got to get back to the coast. It sounds like you miss the coast.
It's painful, man. So first of all, let's give the people what they want. You're obviously one of the little rat pack of recruiting reporters who are out and about all summer and spring and following all these guys. Everybody always asks me, it doesn't matter if I'm at a bar, if I'm sitting at my company email during the day, if I'm on the radio, everybody asks me about Romeo Langford. So I'm going to redirect the angst towards you. What do you think, one, I guess, will happen with Romeo and kind of over the next year? And two, does Louisville have a real chance with him?
I think they do. I think they've remained in sort of a good position with him. Everyone's involved. Kentucky, Kansas, Indiana's still involved after the coaching change. And all these schools got involved a long time ago. During his sort of breakout sophomore year of high school, everyone got involved. There was like a 3 or 4 week span last spring where just a ton of schools offered, and Duke's involved, obviously. So there's just a ton of schools involved. But I do think Louisville's sort of in a good position with him. I think they've remained that way, and obviously I don't see this anytime soon. But it might last till 8 months from now. But I think they're in a good spot. If Bowen or Dangadel leaves early, there's obviously a spot on the wing for him. to come in and be a go-to guy offensively. So I think they're gonna run the race with him, and I think they're gonna remain in there until the end. So I think they do have a legitimate shot with him.
Do you you brought up Brian Bowen? Do you think that this is going to be, with the deadline as it is now? And it's not like new just this year, but in recent years with the deadline as it is, do you think we're going to start seeing more and more guys hold off on decisions until they know what the rosters look like at the schools they're considering?
I think so. I think Bowen was sort of a unique case because obviously Louisville wasn't really involved for 90% of his recruitment, and then they got involved late and he ended up committing. So I think he's sort of a unique situation in terms of 2-3 schools getting involved in the final couple of weeks of his recruitment. But I do think that we're going to keep seeing kids wait, and why not? If you're a 5-star kid, if you're a top 15 player, you can pretty much wait as long as you want. Obviously, we saw schools were willing to wait for Brian Bowen. The schools are willing to wait for Mohamed Bamba. Schools, if you're that good, schools will wait for you. And if you are that good, you sort of have the luxury of saying, hey, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait to see who goes to the NBA. And in Bowen's case, he got to see Riley Alpins come back. He got to see Alonzo Trier come back. At Creighton, Marcus Foster came back. Justin Patton left. So he sort of got to see Miles Bridges went back to Michigan State. So he got to see, how all the dominoes were going to fall before he made his decision. And, from my perspective, it's annoying to see these kids wait until June to commit, but it's great. I think it's going to lead to fewer transfers. If you're a 5-star kid, you're not going to go somewhere and then suddenly, a surprising NBA decision and you're coming off the bench or you're not, getting all the shots you thought you were. So I just think it makes sense for a 5-star kid. Obviously, if you're a 3-star top 250 kid, you probably can't wait that long. Because schools just won't wait for you. But if you're a Brian Bowen, if you're a Mo Bamba, if you're somebody like that, you can wait as long as you want.
And it's I don't know if I told you this, or I don't know how I would have told you this. It only just happened a couple weeks ago. That dude's commitment announcement was 2 hours before I had planned to propose to my girlfriend.
Oh wow!
Actually, congrats. No, it was an hour.
Belated congrats.
Thank you. It was an hour before all that. How much has all of this stuff impacted your personal life in the sense that you just you can never. I mean, you just never know when a dude is going to tweet out like I'm going to Ohio State or something. How often does that happen to you?
Well, especially for Bowen. So I got a call, I guess, a few days before his announcement, or about maybe a week before that, and they were like, "Bowen to Louisville," and I was like, "What?" I was like, it was just like the last thing I wanted to deal with was a new school entering the mix for him and sort of had to handicap it again. But yeah, it's these kids announced it. I mean, Kevin Knox, I think he announced it like 7 o'clock on Derby Day.
Brutal.
Yeah, I mean, these kids just announce sort of whatever they want, and more power to them. I mean, if they know everyone's going to wait for them to announce and everyone's going to pay attention, so they want to do whatever they want. I think it's kind of funny. A lot of the kids, luckily, either they'll announce when they're announcing, or they'll let you know sort of where they're going. You can get something ready, an article or a story, so you could be sort of prepared in advance. But yeah, I mean, it's all. I mean, I think Brandon McCoy announced it at like 11 o'clock one night. I think Shaquille O'Neal's son announced at like 2 a.m. East Coast time when he committed to Arizona a few weeks ago. So it's just these kids sort of go whenever they want, and we sort of have to roll with the punches. It's
some of my favorite recruiting stories. All of them are from Steve Jones, just freaking out about different stuff at all hours of the day, and just like pulling over on the highway, leaving children's birthday parties. I mean,
the best one I had. So I was the best man at my brother's wedding last June, and we're sitting in like the back or just the front of the church, waiting to sort of walk out. Maybe like 2 minutes left, and I get a text from Derek Thornton's dad saying that Derek was going to USC.
Oh my God!
For transferring from Duke to USC, and I'm just standing there, and I asked my brother, "Do we have to walk out in the next like 30 seconds?" He's like, "No, why?" I was like, "Hold on, I got to tweet this news quick." He's like, "Are you really doing this right now? Like, I'm getting married in like 2 minutes." And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "If I have 2 minutes to spare, yeah, I'm gonna tweet this out right now."
That's a true reporter move, man. You get 2 minutes is a lifetime to get a tweet out.
I was like, this is ample time. This is one tweet. I could easily get this off. I couldn't write an article on it, but that's I guess a trade off I had to take.
So let's I promised you, and I don't get very many people on here. I've talked to Doster before, but we never got into soccer. It was right in the thick of the postseason. We will talk a little soccer, so I will warn people now. We're going to talk soccer. There are some people who will immediately stop after we're done talking recruiting. The rest of the people who are enlightened and enjoy the world's game will hopefully enjoy that part of it. But before we get to that, Jeff, I wanted to ask you just about the kind of, there's a couple other guys, there's 2 Louisville commitments. I know we've already talked about them. You've seen Courtney Ramey, you've seen Anthony Simons. What do you think of those guys and kind of how they fit with Louisville?
Both of them had really good springs. Both of them really moved up in the ESPN rankings. Simons, I thought, had one of the best springs of anyone I saw. I mean, the second weekend in April, I saw him hit 5 or 6 threes in multiple games. I think he had 10-plus boards in one game. He's got good size. He's long. He can play either guard spot. He's obviously, I think, going to play off the ball more than on the ball. But, he's not only a shooter, he gets to the rim. I think he's got a lot of upside, and he's really starting to grow into that upside. And I think we saw that this spring. He was one of the better players in April. He had a really good top 100 camp. I just think he's moved into maybe the top 20, top 25 players in the class. And he's a guy that's going to come in. I think that his shooting is really going to help Louisville. I mean, I think that they've had some years in recent memory where they haven't had the shooting that they need, and I think he's really gonna help that. And then Courtney Ramey, he had a big rise in their rankings. I think he's 35 now. Really quick, he's tough, he's a good athlete, plays at both ends of the floor, and obviously that's key for Pitino. He can pressure the ball. He's a good passer. He can score. He doesn't need to score. He can play. He could be more of a pure point guard if needed. He's not much of a shooter, so Simons will have him in that. But I think those 2 guys can be sort of the backcourt of the future. Quentin Snyder's obviously leaving, and they have some reinforcements. But I think that Ramey and Simons, and if they get Langford or if Bowen sticks around, I think that's a really good perimeter group for the next couple of years.
Now, have you seen the Baisley kid, Darius Baisley? He was an Ohio State kid at one point,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, I actually saw him. I saw him in April. I really liked him. I was like, oh, that's a really good pickup for Thad Matta. That's this was a huge pickup for Ohio State early. And then I think it was 3 days later or something like that, he decommitted. And I was like, all right, he's going to move up in the rankings. He's going to be sought after. And that's what's happened. I mean, Indiana and Louisville have made their move with him. Xavier's in the mix. Syracuse and Florida offered. A bunch of schools have offered. He's really good. He had a double-double. Or average double-double when I saw him that weekend in April, and then he switched teams to the Nike circuit. He's just turned it up since then. He's going to be a guy that everyone's going to be watching this July. He's got really good size for the small forward spot, but he could be a power forward. He's 6'9". He's not thick or big, but in today's basketball, he could easily be a sort of a stretch 4, mismatch 4 type of player. Inside outside game, he could pass, he could handle. I really liked him. He was sort of one of my of guys I hadn't seen before. He was one of my favorites in April.
It seems like that's, this is not some like trend story that's brand new, but like Louisville's guys now are all of their big guys are like 200 pounds. I mean, like none of them are. I know Anas Mahmoud is pushing 230 now apparently, but he's also 7 feet. So, a lot of these other guys, it seems more and more that's what teams like if they can make up for the lack of girth by just being super athletic.
Yeah, I mean, so the old school power forward is sort of, out of the game now. I mean, if you're 7 foot, 7'2", you're going to play center and you're going to block shots and grab rebounds, and everyone else on the floor is pretty much going to be able to shoot, pass, handle, go off the bounce. So that's just how it is, and it's obviously it's more fun to watch, or to me at least. But yeah, like sort of the old school 240-pound power forward, 6'7". That's sort of I guess almost an irrelevant piece now.
It's funny on my College Hoops 2K8 that I still play on my PlayStation 3. They will not let me use, like if you simulate any games, they don't let me move my small forward into the power forward spot. Like I try to play a point guard, 2 shooting guards, a small forward, and a power forward, and the game cannot handle that.
They're trying to hold on to the old glory days.
Exactly,
they want the Charles Oakley, Anthony Mason Knicks to come back into play.
Exactly. It's so frustrating. It's very, very frustrating. What about Naz Reid? What do you know about him?
In terms of, pure skill and talent and ability, he's one of the best players in the country. And he had a really good spring. And his motor ran better than I've seen in the past. That was sort of always the knock on him, is that he had all this talent, but he just never. It was not consistent. I remember at USA Basketball training camp a few years ago. He was sort of mailing in the drill portion. He wasn't going in 100%. Other guys were running up and down the court, and he wasn't doing that. And that's always sort of been the thing with him, is that if he could focus and lock in 100% of the time, he's a dominant player. And that's sort of what we saw flashes of in the spring. Passing it, handling it, dominant rebounder. I think he averaged like 15 and 10 on the Under Armour circuit, blocking shots. He's just a really talented player, and he's sort of starting to focus and sort of realize his ability. In terms of recruitment, he's down to 7 schools: Arizona, Kentucky, Kansas, LSU, Seton Hall, UCLA, in addition to Louisville. And he's getting some of the visits out of the way now. He's been to a couple campuses already. He's going to officially visit LSU this weekend. There's sort of some late buzz lately for LSU sort of getting in the mix, but I think there's a long way. I don't think he's going to commit in the next few weeks or anything like that. But he's sort of progressing in his recruitment more than a couple other 5-star guys.
So it's going to be interesting to see. I don't know, especially with the scholarship reduction that Louisville may have to take. I don't know what their what their numbers are going to look like, but it seems to me like they're expecting mass exits after this coming season of NBA and graduation between Snyder and Mahmoud and King and Adele, maybe even Ray Spalding. I think it's clear from their recruiting that they're expecting to have to fill quite a few spots. Okay, let's move on. I got to know, first and foremost, I don't know if I've ever told you this. So when I was in between 6th and 7th grade, my family spent the entire summer in England. My dad swapped jobs with a guy. We were in Warwick, Rhode Island. He was in Warwick, England. We swapped houses and jobs. It was awesome. I mean, it was absolutely awesome. We spent pretty much the whole summer playing soccer with all these other like 12 and 13-year-olds in England. And I became obsessed with Leeds United. So that has always been my team. It's sort of embarrassing now because they haven't been good in a long time. Kind of one of my sadder moments was when I think it was 2 or 3 of them beat up that Asian student outside of a bar in like 2003. That was real embarrassing. And obviously terrible.
Didn't they get a new stadium or something like that?
Yeah, I mean,
today.
Yeah, they're trying to get back to real life because they are one of the more like glorified clubs in England. How did you? So I'll just tell you this. This was even before I went to Pitt, and I've even embraced the whole like gritty, tough guy, bravado type teams after that, even more so, watching their basketball teams with like DeJuan Blair and those guys. But Leeds was the first team that I truly loved that kind of had that attitude. And I'm curious how you decided whenever you started watching soccer that Chelsea was going to be your team, because you're one of the more notable tweeters about Chelsea soccer in the United States that I know of.
Yeah, I've always hated gritty teams, so that's never been a thing for me. I hate grit. I hate toughness. I've always loved soccer. I think I played soccer since I was like 4 or 5 years old. I never really got into European soccer until early in my college days, and it just sort of happened that I was watching international soccer. I was watching European club soccer, and I really liked the way Portugal played. And at the time, that's when Chelsea sort of had a ton of Portuguese players on their team. They bought Deco, and they had Carvalho and Paulo Ferreira. And they're pretty much everybody, but Basigua. They're the whole Mourinho, obviously Portuguese. So their whole team was basically Portuguese players. And that's just sort of how it happened. I just sort of like watching Portugal play. I noticed a lot of their players were on Chelsea, and that's just how it happened. Obviously, it was post Abramovich's takeover, so most people just think that I was sort of a front runner that only liked them once they got money. But I mean, I guess that is the case. But it wasn't. I didn't look over and say, all right, who's the team that's buying the most players? Let me like them. It just happened to be that I liked watching Portugal, and Chelsea had a lot of Portuguese players.
It's funny that you say that because I think Portugal and maybe Argentina are my 2 least favorite international teams that I can think of.
Because you like toughness, and those teams lack toughness.
Yeah, I don't like it, and this translates over to my Monday and Wednesday night rec leagues that you and I have talked about before. I don't like it when people fall immediately when they're touched, and it's
part of the game.
I know, but it's a dishonorable part of the game. And it drives me nuts watching, and like Italy's real bad about it now too. It just drives me nuts. I can't stand the theatrics, and I've always really struggled with it. And Portugal, which World Cup was it with the Rooney and Ronaldo
Uh,
exchange? Was that 2010?
I think so. I want to say that was 2010. That would have been 2 World Cups ago.
Yeah, don't even get me started.
No, I think it was maybe, was it 2006?
It might have been 06.
I feel like it was longer than 2010.
Which one?
It might have been 2006.
06 was Germany. Yeah, I think it might have been Germany. No. It was 2010 because 06 Germany beat England in the 4-2 or something like that. Frank Lampard's goal was discounted even though it clearly crossed the line. And then in 2010, that was the red card whole incident with Rooney, I think, in South Africa.
You might be right.
Yeah.
If you hate flopping, you're probably hating the direction that basketball is going in.
Yes, I know. I'm just miserable. I mean, I'm just a cantankerous old, just angry old man.
You're becoming a get off my lawn guy very early
I
in
know.
life.
It's scary, man. I'm only 31. It's really scary. Like, I lost it the other night at one of my rec league games because it's first of all, it's a co-ed league, and at the end of the games, they give us a card to go to the local tin roof to buy pitchers. So that gives you the idea of the level of competitiveness at this league.
At least you're playing for something.
I know, right? That's exactly right. And they call. I had to play emergency goalie, and they called offsides on this girl who was like 20 feet offsides, and she kicked the ball. Like, she just booted it down the field, like 100 feet past me. And she didn't get in trouble at all. That's like automatic. That is an automatic yellow card in every level of soccer that I've ever played. And
it's the first yellow card I ever got in soccer was for doing something like
exactly. That. I mean, it's just like, I'm still mad about it right now, thinking about how like shockingly annoying it was that she did that.
And so, but like, I mean, if you're one that doesn't like flopping and sort of cheap penalties and fouls, and I feel like you'd be like, all right, we'll let it slide, and then you just have somebody take her out at something.
Well, I'm not gonna act like I haven't looked up when we play them next on our schedule. I will. That is noted in my phone for when I'm back out in the field and playing my foul-ridden defender role that I have on my team. But
I noticed that in my men's league basketball that we actually just lost in the semifinals of the playoffs 2 days ago. I'm still bitter, but I noticed that the whole Chris Paul head knock, like the knock back of the head, I've started using that in my game a little bit. And I don't feel proud of it, but it's drawn a few fouls.
That works. Yeah, that absolutely works because it looks like you're getting shot.
I have nowhere to go. I just sort of stop and I fall back and foolproof.
Yeah, it sounds like maybe you should probably be on my team if you ever get to Louisville to play rec league soccer. You should be on my team. Have you been watching the Confederations Cup at all?
I've watched a little bit. I've actually been paying sort of not more attention, I guess, but to the U21 World Cup.
Oh yeah,
because Chelsea's got a bunch of dudes on that team, and those are the next guys that Chelsea's going to buy and never use and then sell. So I've been watching a little bit of both lately.
Speaking of England losing to Germany, that was like 2 days or yesterday, wasn't it? The penalty shootout.
Yesterday, yeah.
Yeah, brutal.
Yeah, that was unfortunate.
I'm sitting on my DVR of Portugal-Chile right now, so I'm two teams that I really, really, really don't like will be teeing off on each other in the
I feel like
semifinals.
you don't like any of the talented teams.
I like Germany. I like Germany, and I like France. I like Germany because my sister's now ex-husband, an amicable divorce, but her ex-husband is German. And so in like '06, it was like the highlight of his life that they made the semifinals. So I kind of rooted for them in '06. So I like Germany. I like France for the same reasons that you like Portugal, and that I've always liked a bunch of the guys that are on the French national team, even though I think most people really don't like them at all. I like all the teams that people don't like. Like, I like England too a lot, and people like hate England.
I'm never. I mean, Chelsea has no English players ever, so that's sort of why I never end up rooting for England. But I mean, U.S. and Portugal. That's sort of my two countries now. Even though I have zero Portuguese blood in me.
Do you Borzello is what? I assume Italian.
Italian, yep.
So do you root for Italy as well?
I do. I feel like I used to root for them more. They've played a very. I mean, when Antonio Conte managed them, I was very proud. But they sort of they've been playing sort of a boring style for a long time now, and it's not very easy on the eyes.
Yeah, so, I'm not a big fan.
I never really got into them. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, where I grew up was almost entirely either Portuguese or Italian American families. So those two teams, and Brazil, because of one, they're really good, but two, because of the sort of the Portuguese connection there. Those three national teams were just like insanely popular in Rhode Island, and it drove me nuts. I mean, it just made me so angry that those people were not even rooting for the U.S., but I digress. All right, so I'll get you out of here on this. I don't know, do you remember, this would have been 2014. Do you remember sitting in a very questionable downtown club in Louisville with me and Myron Metcalf?
100%.
Okay. I will never forget. I think it was you. It might have been Myron, but I think it was you who said you could not believe that I had actually like started out as a clerk at a newspaper and like worked my way into like writing positions. You were like stunned that I actually like did the 1955 newspaper man climb up the ladder, so to speak.
Well, yeah, because I mean we're around the same age. I guess you're a year older than me if you're 31. But like I always want to do like what I'm doing now, but I feel like I would have failed miserably at doing what you did. I feel like I would have been like, oh my god, like I would have been very bad. They would have fired me at some point, and I would have never got to do this. So it wasn't like a shock. It was more like impressed that like you like worked your way up or sort of organically, and I don't know. It was more impressed than shock or anything like that.
Well, for people like me, we're always like impressed when guys like you are just like popping up on the internet and you're like, who is this guy? Oh my god, he's like 25 and he's already writing for like CBS. I mean, that's and ESPN now. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I remember that also that night walking back, some bar was closed and they were playing Project Pat's Chicken Head in the morning, and I was like, what is going on? There's nobody. There was like two people in there, and I was like, okay, that's what Louisville's about. All right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was like a Tuesday night too, wasn't it? I mean, it was.
It was like Monday, maybe a Sunday or something like that. There was like nobody on the streets.
Louisville's a lot more fun than 4th Street. I'll close on that. I will recommend whenever you come back, you've got to ask me for some better places. I'll direct you in the right direction.
I went back for PGA was there a couple of years ago.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
And it was part of like a road trip. Me and a couple of buddies, we stopped in like Cincinnati and Pittsburgh, went to baseball games along the way. And I went out in some other area, and it was awesome. Yeah. I have no idea what it was, but it was fun.
It was probably Bardstown Road. That's like the most famous, the Highlands.
Yeah, it might have been that. It was awesome.
So your next item on your friend bucket list, then you got to go to the Kentucky Derby. I know you go to the Belmont every year.
My brother, he works for NBC, so he goes every year, and he's always telling me that he's like, oh, just. Dude, you and your buddies, you should go. And I just never do. I went to Preakness like 2-3 years in a row back when I was in college and loved it. I've never been to Belmont or the Derby.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and Belmont, isn't Belmont like right in your backyard?
Yeah, it's in New York. I've never gone. I don't know.
All right. Well, we'll get you to the Kentucky Derby and you will never want to go to another horse race again in your life.
Is that good or bad?
It's like you'll never top it. I mean, it's like this past year I sat at a table at this French restaurant with the Stanley Cup at our table. I mean, there's like, that would only ever happen at the Kentucky Derby.
It seems like way more of a socialite affair than Preakness did.
Yes.
Preakness was a mess.
Yes. I mean, a week before it, I was in a tux, so that should probably tell you everything you need to know. Yeah, there you go. But, all right, man, we'll get back to enjoying your summer, and appreciate you taking a few minutes.
No problem, man. Thanks for having me on.
All right, see you, Jeff.